Any, anyways, before my league crashed, we need to make the call either way. Because right now, like we're fighting at 50% efficiency, and we're just this fight. We could either go in and win this fight, or we could go out and safely, take our advantages and leave. But somebody needs to make that call. And because of the chaos from us just not having calls, we're just not we're just giving up free kills and we're losing objectives we should not be losing at this point. The next fight comes when they try to get their dragon here. Alright, we get a dragon sometime right before the end of the game. And we catch them out of position. Like, this is a free dragon. We've lost a couple fights, but we won our last one, which I'll get to later. And we've, we're doing pretty well. We're getting back into the game. We're getting our fourth dragon, so we're we could potentially win with 5 drags. They're out of position. Like, this is free. And then this is where calls come into play again. And this fight also reflects a bunch of other fights that I won't be going over because they're all pretty similar to this. There's two things to remember. We have a linear danger area, aka the river or a lane. It's a wide area that forces you to go in one direction, back or forth. It doesn't let you spread out. And that's the opposite of what we want to fight in. Against their team, they have a Garen that's fast as shit. They have a Sona that makes their entire team fast as shit. They have a Malphite that can get fast with Q and then OTN, Unstoppable Force. And we're looking at a very bad disengage for their engage. We cannot disengage because they will just run us down. They basically have Sivir OT on all their champions. So they get to pick the fights. And the issue with that is we cannot get caught out in lanes. We have our best chance of fighting is in the jungle. We need to fight in the jungle so that Mike's CC is guaranteed to be effective. They have a real lack of flashes. Their biggest champion, Garen, doesn't have flash at all. He just Ghost Ignite. If we fight in the jungle by turning left here, instead of going down and trying to pick up this creep wave, this would have been a much better fight for us because they cannot get through Mike's wall in a small contained area like this. Whereas in an area like this, it's just wide enough that they can scoot around Mike's wall and completely ignore it. Furthermore, at this point, we know they're going to engage. There's no reason to go up and try to counter engage. We should just try to run. There's no guarantee. In fact, there's a pretty low chance that we'll survive, but it's better than nothing. Because if we lose a fight at this point, we lose the game. We cannot afford to lose 2 people, because that would be losing the game. If it's a 3v5, because we have no inhib turret, that's game over. So we have to either run and just pray that we're okay, or move up into the jungle and try to fight them in the jungle. But either way, this turns out badly. And we we lose the game off this fight. Now the fight before this one, right here, speed this up a little. Alright, so as this super minion wave pushes down here, Jinx goes to get the super minions, which is fine. Alright, go ahead. And I'm looking over here. You know, I'm looking over here because Sona's moving over here. I'm wondering what the fuck she's trying to do. And before I know it, Mike pulls out one hell of a play and just hundreds of zeros Malzahar, which is pretty awesome. Uh, the issue with 100 zeroing Malzahar is now we can take a really good fight. And we do. Starts at 4220. Brian plays it right by putting a OT down here. That's as far as you should commit with Leona. You should not be using your EQ to commit in because we cannot misappropriate our frontline assets and use them like that. We need to use our assets more effectively. Martinez's job is to run back here and just push them backwards, while Brian and my job is to stay up here and stop their front line from demolishing our carries. Now Mike has dropped his OT, so he's still got his normal spells left, but since he doesn't have OT, he does get 100 to 0'd out pretty quickly. But all things considered, a lot worse could have happened. And this is a saving grace. Jinx is late to the fight, and they've forgotten about you. Because in League, people tend to have the memory span of a goldfish. If you just disappear and arrive about 2 to 3 seconds late to the fight, that's perfectly fine. Because they've already blown all their cooldowns. They can't get back to you. And if you notice, the rest of this fight plays out in our favor pretty hard. Even though they have a gold lead and they have Baron and all that kind of stuff, we win this fight pretty hard just because they don't have the cooldowns to actually fight this. And they can't get back to our Jinx. So you don't always have to feel pressured to drop damage immediately at the beginning of the fight as quickly as possible. Because with the tank meta going on like this, fights last for like 30 seconds. And losing a couple seconds here and there so that you're waiting off in the wings way in the back before the fight starts just so people forget about you is a very effective strategy because it gives you a lot more time to drop down free damage. Overall, this fight took 28, 30, 31, 31 seconds until the last auto attack. So you see, you don't have to feel rushed to come in and be there immediately at the beginning of the fight. Take a couple seconds, you know, stay a screen back if you have to, especially against dive heavy comps that we can't necessarily peel off, and just come in a little bit later. And the results will usually end up being a lot better, at least for the first couple fights until they pick up what we're doing. Trying to find the last fight I want to talk about. This one. So again, we're in a linear danger area that in the late game really favors their team comp over ours. Martinez is getting a good flank in, which is fine. Like, this is Martinez's job. Martinez's job is to flank in here, Sona, Malzahar, Lucy, and get to the backline, and then just annoy them and soak up some damage and take their attention. While Brian takes aggro from one of them, and I take aggro from the other. I'm trying to stop Malphite's ulti at this point. It's still off cooldown. He still has the ability to drop at any time, and he holds on to it forever. I mean, I actually forget about Malphite as I come after Garen after a while. And we do kill Garen, but Malphite eventually gets patient enough to drop his ulti, and we lose that fight. Where's the last fight I want to look at? Ah, it's this fight. Alright. No, it's not this fight. It's another dragon fight though. I believe it is this one. Yeah. So Martinez is pushing top, and Brian is down here. And for all intents and purposes, this is a winnable fight for us if we played our roles correctly. And this is the big problem. Like we all misplayed this, all of us. And again, it comes down to communication. It comes down to just tunnel vision. Brian makes a good play by dropping a ward here. So now Martinez has a ward here, and a ward here, and a ward here to teleport to, depending on what angle of attack he wants to come in from. And Brian goes around for the flank, which is fine. But the issue is, what happens after this loses us the fight. Because Brian has 2,600 hit points, but 87 armor. Like, he's still pretty squishy because he's a support. He doesn't have that kind of money. While Martinez, he's behind, but he's still got double the armor, and he's got his ultimate, and he's got 2,600 hit points. So he's got a lot more survivability than Brian. And on the other hand, he also doesn't have the crowd control that we need as a peeler. There's no reason to have Mundo over here with me trying to peel for our squishies while Brian's trying to 3v1 and run distraction for their carries. What the hell? Anyways, alright, so Brian throws down an ultimate here, which is fine, but that's as much as you should ever commit to uh, to an engage. Once your ulti's in, you should EQ on the Garen and help with the peeling process, because I have hard CC, you have hard CC, and Mundo doesn't. But what Mundo has over all of us is the ability to soak up more damage than all of us combined. So Mundo should be making a beeline up towards here to start heading off their squishies, and Brian should be trading responsibility with Mundo down to Garen. I also fucked this up. I misdid my pull. I hit this part of the rock right here instead of Malphite because Jinx was running up right here, and this is suicide. Like, I knew if I didn't get a auto attack snare on Malphite, Jinx was dead. Like, this is gonna turn real bad. And I believe my auto attack is in the animation when he ulties. Yep, it was in the animation when he ulties. And I was just trying to buy about a second to a second and a quarter for Jinx to move the fuck out from that location. There's no reason to be that close to Malphite while he still has his ultimate up. But what's done is done. I turn around, and we actually get some pretty good chunking on Garen, as well as forcing out Malphite's flash. So at this point, this fight's still winnable, even though we don't have the right people in the right places. Like, if Brian was over here and Martinez was over here, this fight would be even better. But as of right now, it's still winnable. We forced out Malphite, and Garen's about to lose all his hit points. Okay. And at this point, I start chasing them. I tunnel vision, Martinez tunnel visions. Like, this is my fault, honestly. To be fair though, this is what my camera looked like, so I have no idea that Malphite was even down here. So having someone say Malphite was coming in on the squishies, like whether it be Brian that's dead or one of the carries themselves, would have been really useful. I would have doubled back and put some CC on Malphite, and we would have killed here, and then we would have moved up as 4, as a front line as 4. That way we would have the flexibility of taking this dragon and denying their first dragon while getting our lead to 4, or pushing up into and chase and continue to chase and acing their team. Like, this fight is still very, very good in our favor. It just mechanical and positional misplays by uh, by me that fucked it up pretty bad here. But yeah, I should have doubled back and gotten Malphite. But anybody on the team could say something and also save our ass in this situation too, man. Um, and if I double back and got Malphite, Malphite would have died here, and I would have been about here. At which point we could re-engage here, and Mike would have never been ulted by Malzahar. Mike would have been ulted right here, and I would have been able to pull over with my anchor and cancel out Malzahar's ult immediately. But instead I have to run backwards and try to get a line of sight to cancel his ulti, which again loses us that fight. The big thing is, the other big thing is we were fighting again in the linear danger zone, the wide, relatively wide, but still narrow enough to be constrictive against the Garen Malphite combo. Straight constrictive line. This is not a good place to fight, and ultimately it led to one of our problems and our inability to really fuck things up too badly here, or yeah, to kill them. So yeah, in closing, we need to work on our communication. We definitely need calls. Anybody can make calls, man. All 5 of us following a bad call or a relatively wrong call is a lot better than that shit fest we saw here, where like 2 of us were doing one thing and 2 of us were doing another thing over and over again, just playing chase the chicken around. That would have saved us in a early to mid game, and knowing our roles, using our champions to their intended roles, not using Mundo as a backline peeler, not using Leona as a frontline tank if we're not ahead and we need that peel for our incredibly immobile squishies. Especially at one later on in the game, we end up with a 6-item hyper carry. Like, just knowing our roles and executing better, and then working together as a team. Communicating, saying what's on our minds and what needs to be done. Even if it's wrong, man, just make a shout out in the dark.